America happens to be a bully, gangsters, because I grew up in Watts, and I remember the cocaine trains, I remember the gun trains. What they used to do, they used to bring cocaine on railroad trains through the ghettos, and they used to leave the carts on the tracks around 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody would run out and get them. Sometimes there'd be guns on the train.
The difference between, say, the 70s and the 80s was so dramatic. These AK-47s showed up. I'm not saying they were put on a train and dumped here, but they got something very easy to get.
The cops on the streets was wondering, you know, where the hell all these automatic machine guns coming from?
Somewhere in America, somebody's giving somebody some guns for cheap, because them motherfuckers is cheap on the street.
I grew up at Normandy and Santa Monica.
Right.
Which wasn't the worst neighborhood, but it wasn't the best neighborhood in the 80s. It was borderline, you know? And I know at one point the knives turned into guns. I was like 10 years old myself. This is 1985.
Because back then, my homies used to have fist fights in the parks and all of that shit, chains and bats and sticks. And it went from chains, bats, and sticks to guns.
We never questioned how that came about.
And all of this started occurring right around the early 80s, right as crack epidemic started.
I would say I was fortunate to get out of public school in LA before 1980, because after 1980, there was an explosion of crack, cocaine.
Talking to folks in Watts, California about the early 1980s, the same subject keeps popping up, the alleged gun and cocaine trains. Many claim that these guns and drugs were brought into the inner city neighborhoods with the purpose of profiting from the addiction and the violence. Crazy conspiracy theory, right? So get this, the Kerry Committee revealed that government officials at the highest levels of office knew about the drugs for arms trade between LA and Nicaragua. These findings were further corroborated and elaborated upon by both the Iran-Contra affair and the investigations of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Gary Webb, who published an article about how the CIA was responsible for bringing crack cocaine into LA inner-city neighborhoods with the sole purpose of profiting from the addiction and using that money to fund the Nicaraguan rebels who were fighting the communist Sandinista government. The allegations went all the way up to President Ronald Reagan, who was accused of using the CIA to kill the communist threat on the nation's doorstep. As a result of the influx of guns and drugs, whether from corrupt U.S. officials or otherwise, gang culture grew, prison culture grew, neighborhoods and lives were torn apart, frustration climaxed with the LA riots after the Rodney King verdict came down. Neighborhoods were ripped apart. Since then, the prison population has skyrocketed. Rather than embrace these findings and use it to bring down corrupt officials, the mainstream media went out of its way to make Gary Webb look like a crazy person and a liar. In 2004, Gary Webb committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the head. He really wanted to kill himself. Cocaine trains or not, a twisted justice system leads us to today, when things have gotten so bad that we have to scream Black Lives Matter. It's obvious there are some out there that don't think they do.
Oh, black people think that, you know, that's just all in their heads. When in fact, maybe it's not all in our heads.
You have no reason to complain if you live in America, and if you have something that you want to do, just do it.
And what I see is nothing but corruption.
Like the best country ever, totally freaking rocks.
America doesn't happen. You make America happen.